All right, let's jump right into it. Thank you everybody for attending episode 29 and Let's Talk Recruiting. Today we're covering a topic that I think is everywhere, and it's a consistent issue that every recruiting team that I've ever come across has to sort of manage on an ongoing basis. And that topic is getting rid of the resume black hole for good. It's kind of like that holy grail search in my opinion, because like I said, it's constant and ongoing for every rec that gets created. So with us today in our round robin table discussion, we have Courtney Lewis out of Atlanta, and we have Sean Racco out of Chicago, Matthew Liptak out of Boston, and Chiara Hughes is possibly going to be joining us. We'll see if she joins in. We'll get right to her. But with that said, Courtney, I'm going to jump right into that conversation and start off with you.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll give a quick overview and then I'll go right into my items. So I've been 10 to 12 years, I was a manager where I did full desk recruitment for myself for food service and nutrition employees. And now currently I'm a regional recruiter where for a logistics company where I do very high volume full cycle recruiting for warehouse operations, inventory, and customer service. So this is a major topic for us when dealing with candidates. So the main thing that I found to be something that we needed to work on was company feedback, providing feedback to the candidate, making sure that we're communicating the next steps in the process, letting them know when we are, where they are in the process, especially through the ATS program. If you have a ATS program that will allow you to do so. Because I've had experience with some ATS programs that are just pretty much data dumps a resume where you're just pretty much having to go through resume and you're not doing anything else with it. However, fortunately, we've actually just got with JobVite where we're able to go through every step with the candidate and be able to let them know where they are in the process. And it also kind of cuts down on the calls that we receive from candidates because while we're trying to make calls, they're calling us. So it also just kind of gets rid of that when we're able to provide them with the feedback, especially through email. And then the other thing was making sure that if a candidate's not going to be moved on to the next step, letting them know as quickly and as soon as possible. Because it's nothing worse than sitting there waiting, having to find out if you're going to get a job or if you're going to move forward in the process. And so helping to make sure, again, just providing that feedback to the candidate is a great way of removing that resume black hole, because a lot of times, again, they submit these resumes and they're like, okay, what's next? What am I going to do? It's just sitting there. What else next? So that's one of the main things that I found was a good point for us was providing feedback to the candidate.
Courtney, are your jobs that you have that you're hiring for there, are they a lot of high volume recs, or is it sort of an equal mixture across the board?
So I have a mixture to where I have some high volume recs, say like for instance for forklift operators, that is a constant rec that just stays open that I'm consistently recruiting for. However, I do have some positions that we can pretty much keep candidates in, like your customer service positions. We're able to keep those individuals in their position. But forklift operators, those are the main high volume that we're constantly having to continue to fill.
And you mentioned JobVite. I've used that before. Gets the job done. Not my favorite ATS in the world, but it gets the job done. They, like just about every other ATS, has templates in there, right? Or is your team are you using templates, or are you kind of doing more customized updating along the way?
So as of right now, we are using templates, and sometimes we're using our own, but we've actually just converted over to JobVite. So we're trying to still finish implementing some of the parts of JobVite. We were using PCR Recruiter, which was for me was not as useful or effective as JobVite. So this is definitely a great improvement.
And here's a question that goes back to you, but maybe just for all the panelists too. When we talk about, like, there's two buckets of candidates: those that are in the process, right? They've been screened or they're moving down the flow, and then those that didn't make it there, right? Either they're sitting there unreviewed or they've been reviewed and rejected. Kind of sticking on that timeline of updating. Is the focus more on those people going down the timeline, and we're kind of holding with the other candidates? Because I think when we talk about the black hole as a bigger issue, it really is, hey, when I'm interviewing, yeah, they update me, at least with like the time and things like that. But then there's that piece where I'm not moving down the timeline, so I'm not hearing anything. I wonder what happened to it. I know with JobBite, you can reject a candidate, send it that they got rejected. So I guess specific question back to Courtney, and this is what we did. When you get rejected, you get that, hey, thanks for applying, but we're, for lack of better words, going in another direction, right? Are you guys utilizing that type of updating when that update comes in the form of a rejection?
So what I like to do as part of my recruitment is making sure if the candidate's not going to move forward, and like I said, once I post the position, I'm starting to look at the applications the very next day. So my goal at that point is if you're not going to move forward, I just go ahead and let you know. I set it to where it can let them know within 1 to 3 days. That way it just kind of lets them know automatically, but I just go ahead and let them know automatically if you're not moving forward. But for those that are moving forward, I do go on ahead. I like to disposition my candidates when I'm going through the resume, so I'm not having to keep going back and touching that same resume over and over. I like to go on ahead and set them up for their interview, go ahead and contact them, talk to them, and get it all done at once. That way that candidate can just move on down the process and it gets done a lot faster. Because again, I have high volume recruitment where I need to get my roles filled as quickly as possible because a lot of these positions are immediate fills.
But how about everybody else on the panel? Is your group or your team or yourself, I'll call it sandbagging. Are you sandbagging your rejections until the rec gets closed? Because for me, I'm kind of defining the resume black hole as the unknown. I applied and I haven't heard anything back. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that I have trained my teams and we have implemented candidate experience and white glove experience to our candidates to make sure that we're getting back to every candidate within any stage as much as possible. If they've gone through an interview process or formalized interview process, we have a more personal touch with a personal touch email or call, or if they are just coming into a bucket of being reviewed, we have that template email that does go out, but we are trying to get some sort of touch out to any candidate that's come through just to keep that candidate experience alive and well in the companies I've worked at.
We're doing similar to Matt in my organization, but definitely we have Greenhouse as our applicant tracking system, and make sure everyone's utilizing the timed rejections. So it doesn't go out like the second you finish your phone interview or the second they apply if you check out their resume. So I would definitely encourage people to use those.
Same. Sorry, I joined a few minutes late. I'm Kiata at Carvana. Same. We use Greenhouse, and we actually have taken it a step farther for our corporate and tech recs, which take a little longer to go through than our more high volume recs. Greenhouse actually has a keep warm template. So if it's been 4 days or something with a no touch, it'll literally automatically send out an email to the candidate that says, hey, sorry we haven't talked to you in a few days. Hang in there.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, I will tell you this. If I have a candidate and I see their resume and I feel like they may be a great fit for a different role that they applied for, versus just immediately rejecting them, I will reach out to them and say, hey, I know you applied for this role, but I feel like this may be a better role for you, versus just automatically rejecting them.
Courtney, do you move people over to a rec, or do you wait to get their interest before doing that?
Again, I do wait till I have their interest, but if I see that they may be, so say like if, for instance, they applied for a different role, a customer service position, but I see they have a lot of inventory and I have an inventory position that's open, then I automatically move them over to that rec, but I will give them a call to ensure that they would want to be considered for that position before I move forward with just completely considering them for that inventory role.
Yeah, I find the whole internal candidate management per a recruiter's desk kind of sort of an interesting, everybody's kind of the same, but kind of different in how they do it. And it all seems to come down to execution on one's desk. So that moving around makes sense. I'm just sort of curious as to who's doing that and how. Yeah, I mean, I've had recruiters that will move people into a stage that they never use, so they don't have to reject them right away because they want to wait till the end or when they're ready to reject them. So I really like to see tools that are coming around to work the way that recruiters work and stuff like that. So, and Kiara, did I say your name right? You got the toughest name so far.
I know, such a weird name.
And I cannot roll my R's, so I'm just going to kind of get as close as I can.
That's all right.
Is there an on-off switch on that keep warm piece that you spoke of? Just curious.
Yeah, you have to actually set it up.
Okay.
It doesn't default to have it on. You have to set it up to turn it on.
Interesting. Yeah, when you're saying that, I'm like, oh, automatic emails, that might freak a few people out.
No.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you, Courtney. Sean, let's jump over to your item.
Yeah, this has been really top of mind at my firm. So I'm at Go Health in Chicago. And, market-wise, we're focused on tech for the most part of my team. And, there's very few firms that we're competing against for talent at this point, where a lot of firms have slowed down their hiring during COVID, where we've been more aggressive than we have. So our inbound volume is at historic levels, to the point where my team can't get in front of just inbound traffic. So, and we've also found that candidates are more likely to leave negative reviews about their experience right now because unemployment is so large. And I think there's people are a little bit more emotional about their experience. And if there's so few opportunities that if they get rejected from that one, then there's panic about what's going to be next. So it's definitely been really top of mind for me. So I've taken two kind of tacks to help, I guess three things and put in place to solve this. One is through Greenhouse, I get a stalled candidate report sent over to me every Wednesday. I've automated it to send to me, and then it's part of my conversations with my one-to-ones with recruiters to talk about where they're stall candidates, why, how we can resolve those situations, so that's that we're giving candidates a good experience. Candidate experience, as Matt said, is huge right now, and we've got to kind of white glove people through it. So one, we're kind of automating that report so that we know where people are at. We've also just this morning actually had just kind of a team-wide discussion around how to or what the proper process is for rejection. So at what point and we went through each step of our recruitment process and said, hey, what's our best practice for candidates that don't get phone screened? What's it for phone screens? What's it for manager screens? What's it for technical assessments? What do you do for face-to-face? And all came to solid kind of firm agreement on what everyone was going to do through each stage, so that we were being consistent with people, regardless of department that they were coming into. So I would guess process is really important. Kind of the automation is really important. But then for me, the biggest thing that I use is implemented is technology. So we've got a tool. And the last time I was on this call, I mentioned Talent Wall. So we follow an agile. Oh, nice. We follow an agile recruitment process in my organization, and Talent Wall kind of visualizes your agile recruitment process. And color codes candidates based on where they're at in how far along they've been sitting in a certain stage of process, so that you can keep track of it. So we do weekly sprints with managers, and they've got that Talent Wall screen up on the board as they're having the conversation, so you can see where these candidates are stalled and have conversations about why they're stalled, and get people into the yes/no discussion rather than the grays where they end up sitting. So that's been huge for us. It's also really helpful for me and my one-to-ones to just scroll through each job that we're talking about and see where candidates are at in process and see where we need help. And one last plug for them, they've also got some really good predictability functions within it to look at your recruiter's kind of traditional pass-through rates, and figure out where a potential hire is in the process and how many potential hires you already have in your pipeline, so that you can work on their just efficiency overall. So that one's probably been the most effective resource for me to get people out of that black hole. I can visually see it every day in our stand-ups and say, hey, here's 5 or 6 people that we need to for sure get moving along. and it's solved a lot of problems for us.
But in only because I'm a huge Talent Wall fan, but so far they only work with Greenhouse.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that. We've got
Yeah.
Greenhouse. It's great, but it's awesome. It's a great tool.
They're
And
great.
it's really cheap. If people
It is really cheap. I was like, can we just buy them? And Jake, the owner's like, no.
Yeah.
But they
I
only
have
work with
regular
Greenhouse.
conversations with Jake. He's a good
Isn't
guy.
he great?
Yeah. So yeah, technology's made it much easier. So if people are looking and have budget for solutions, like I'd highly recommend that. It's great for reporting, great for black holes, great for just visualizing what you need to get done.
Worth every penny.
Yep.
Hey, Sean, question for you on your Stahl report.
Yeah.
So like I love weekly reports to come out Monday mornings to give a state of the state, so to speak, in regards to open recs. So in your Stahl report, so the metric that I use, I just call it the unreviewed rate, which looks at every resume that's been applied that just hasn't been dispositioned any direction, yay or nay. Does your Stahl report kind of, I assume it's going to sort of look at the whole workflow that's going on, but does it highlight those applicants that are unreviewed against sticking, oh, that's the black hole, they're stuck in the black hole where nobody's has had the time to take a look?
So the way that we have ours broken down, it's by, not necessarily by job, but it first filters by stage of process. So the first ones you see, like just general applications, then phone interviews, then manager phone interviews, then on-sites, then offers, then hires. So we break it down by each function, but I think the one that's priority for us, just as I mentioned in the beginning, is we're inundated with inbound resumes at this point. That looking at those applicants first is become a priority for my team, where it usually wasn't in the past. Like we had to go out and find the talent. Now it's coming to us, so we want to give them a good treatment.
Yeah, if at all possible, the way our reports are structured is it's by rec. So every you see the recruiter, you see all the recs, and then by rec that unreviewed rate. Because some unreviewed rates that are high are acceptable, like a lower level, high volume job that, hey, I only really need 50 applicants. I'm going to get a hire out of that, so to speak. Versus an executive level position that should have a 0 unreviewed rate, or a critical talent group that you're targeting on should have a lower rate. So being able to look at each rec and see, hey, on the ones that I need to spend my time on, got them covered. The other ones, it's okay to have 80% of applicants unreviewed because we have 10 interviewing at this point. And it tells that story on that. So whenever possible, I say, because every rec has its own little story, be able to drill down there wherever possible.
Yeah.
Excellent. There's a question about this talent wall. Is it drop and drag to move people in the process?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can, it's not an ATS replacement in any way, but you can push people through the process through it. So it has some functionality to it, but it wouldn't take the place of what you have.
No, it's just a plugin. It's a Greenhouse plugin, and it's an overlay to your reports. It's awesome though, but you can slice and dice all your data, and he even used a UI UX team, so you can drag and drop to make your reports look how you want your stakeholders to look for them personally. I can't say enough about it. It's great.
That might be the wave of workforce management in the future, the drag and drop, because that's how managers like to define their teams. I just want to click and drag them over to this team and be done.
Yeah.
And by the way, update Workday when I do it. There's that other catch. Anybody? Thanks, Sean. Anybody else to add on to Sean's comment about really utilizing technology to help get the job done?
I know. Have you guys been using your technology as far as trying to eliminate candidates from positions? So, like for instance, again, we used to use PCR Recruiter was more like a data dump of resumes, and so sometimes we needed to answer specific questions so that we can kind of get through it. I know for me, I use because we use Google Suites a lot. I used to use a Google form where I would kind of send it over to the candidate and say, hey, can you answer these questions to kind of help me through the process to find out if you will be a good fit for the role? Do you guys' program currently do that, or do you all do something similar?
Greenhouse actually, when you post the job, Greenhouse puts pre-qualifying. You can put pre-qualifying questions in, and there's like if-then statements embedded. So if the candidate says no to so many, you can program Greenhouse to automatically say, I'm sorry, since you did not answer yes to these questions, you are not a fit for the job. And then it'll automatically reject the candidate from the job with a polite note. So therefore the recruiter bluntly doesn't even have to see the candidate, doesn't even have to see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know, like our high volume team, and I don't manage that team, but they use resume readers. They grade out resumes. Like I found that hasn't been super helpful for more kind of professional level roles.
Right. We use it for our high volume as well, but not so much for the more corporate roles, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And Courtney, JobVite does do that. It has that capabilities to do it and create a library, so you can have a set of questions there for you to pull from versus having to create them for every different rec each time.
I've seen that, so right now I'm trying to wait and see if they're going to implement it. I'm hoping, fingers crossed.
No, is the common term for that feature called knockout questions? That's what I call them.
What we call them too.
Okay, I think we call them pre-qualification
Yeah.
questions.
Everybody kind of has their own names for the same thing. At different companies always try to, hey, let's define our industry vocabulary if we can. Excellent. Matt, were you going to say something?
Yeah, so I use iCIMS, that's our tool, and I've used that at several different companies. So the iCIMS tool actually has a few different features they built into the tool that we're actually utilizing. One of them is called a Connect Nurture feature, which actually pools your candidates. If you're not going to put that candidate in a certain job, you can pool the candidates, send them marketing emails at durations throughout the year, and announce when jobs are going to be opening. You can actually have candidates in different categories of pools. And also iCIMS just recently bought a talent intelligence platform, which you're going to be able to do searches, and actually they'll pull candidates into your jobs from your own database. So the ATS will actually work for itself, pulling candidates in using artificial intelligence, analytics, things like that. And then what we're building out here at Mimecast is we're actually going to be building out a TA dashboard, feeding data into that dashboard for leaders to see the data real time. So we're either going to have it built in-house on a BI type platform like Tableau or Power BI. We're going to do it in-house, or we're going to go outside to a vendor to actually help us build out a dashboard that can have this data feed into it. And we can do drag and drops and things like that, but we can see real-time charts, recruitment funnel effectiveness, sourcing, time to hires, things like that, all in one place in that dashboard. So it's really going to be something that the leaders will be wanting to see, and the TA leadership wanted to see as well.
Kudos for you to getting budget for outside development, because it's like every time you want to do something like Tableau's, it's big. There's some other ones out there, but you need like a little bit of a developer skill to make it look really good. And then those people are usually dedicated to some other department. So, and that resource fight seems to be the biggest wall to building that, as ATSs almost start to build out API and going into a business unit. So I always tell people, hey, get budget to get somebody to do it for you, because you will always lose out your request to the sales team or the marketing team or what have you.
We embedded an analytics guy right in HR here, and it's really cool that he's embedded in HR. He's pulling the analytics on the HR side, but we're trying to investigate now. Is it too big a job for just him to do this, or should we go with a third party? And we looked at one third party called People Insight. It's an actual tool that connects directly to iCIMS, and they do all the back end stuff with their own BI teams, which seems pretty cool, but it's an investment.
Excellent. It's good to see operations getting their desks in HR and recruiting departments. But Matt, did you just want to jump into your item?
Yeah, so just dovetailing off of that. So what we started doing here and other places I've been is, when we have these nurture and connect type tools where we pool the candidates, we actually do a lot of outreach with marketing, emailing, but we also do big pieces with networking. So we started networking with a lot of candidates that may not necessarily be a fit for the company at the time, but we network with their networks and actually try to cross-reference our networks over and try to connect the dots as far as who's in their network that may be a good fit for this job at the time, keeping them warm for other roles, that individual, but also networking to see if there's someone else that maybe they can refer or something like that. So we've done a good job of having candidates refer other people within their network over to us. And it's really been useful. But also letting them know that they're going to be kept warm for the future, and we can keep them in our pool of candidates for those roles that open up.
No, with your pools, right? Some people call them pools, some people call them pipelines. Are you putting the vast majority of your candidates in there, or only somebody who sort of met the bar of, hey, I know I want to work with this person in the future, or they're a candidate for the future, or is everybody kind of going into your pools?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, I think what we're doing is we're really looking at that background to see if they're a good fit for the company or in a potential job down the road and putting them into those pools. We also have a feature that we built into our career page that will actually be a feature that they can apply just generally if there's not a job opening, and they'll automatically go into one of those pools inside the iSIMS tool, and we'll be able to decipher if we want to keep them in that certain pool or move them over. But the good thing about that feature is there's all sorts of different marketing emails that we can send out automatically to those pools and tailor those to the certain jobs that open up.
And do you pool your high volume recs where, it's kind of easy to get applicants? Are you still pooling those, or are you selecting which type of job roles?
Yeah, we are still pooling those, the business development reps. That's a big one. We pool those candidates and make a pipeline of those candidates for the future. So it's really helping us out as far as some of those high volume.
I probably not a discussion for today's call, but I've done that before, where you start to look at attrition of engagement once you put somebody in a pool. And it's almost like once you let them know, hey, come back and apply a second or third time, and they're not moving anywhere in the cycle, they'll drop, right? They'll unsubscribe, or they'll drop off, which is kind of a good thing because, hey, let's be honest, everybody's getting their time wasted here if there's no point in moving, if they're not going to move forward. So that whole back end of watching your open rates, click rates, and apply rates, it's kind of like a whole little, to your point, if you got somebody who's looking at all those analytics, that's the person, because it's not a job for a recruiter to go do because you're not your main job. But it's interesting to see that type of downstream activity and what your return on your investment is, both time and product. Excellent. Court, anybody want to add to Matt's item right there?
No, so I did want to get clarification. So Matt, you're saying that you guys reach back out to candidates that may not necessarily be a fit and ask them for a referral?
Yeah, actually, if we do reject a candidate or we actually decline a candidate, we're letting them know that we're keeping them in mind for future roles, but we're also looking into their networks or asking them if they could refer someone to the role. 9 times out of 10, they're very open to it. I mean, we've seen people that are very cordial and will refer someone that they might know, knowing that they're not a fit for the role at the time. So it's been becoming useful. And now that we're at a more slower time with some of our roles, we can put more time into nurturing the candidate and talking to them about future roles as well.
Okay.
Is anybody pulling off postings of open recs just because you're getting so much applicant flow, especially if the hiring process may be delayed a bit because of the COVID crisis? Are you keeping your recs posted, or are you pulling them when you got a whole bunch of applicants, but it's still open?
We're keeping things posted, only I feel like it's more to appease hiring managers who would come to us and be like, why is my rec pulled down?
So for me, I do keep mine posted, but unfortunately, a lot of times I get a lot of people who are not fit for the role. So I have to keep mine posted. And then sometimes we may feel like the person may be a good fit. The hiring manager gets a hold of them during the interview. I'm having to go back and pull more candidates because they may not have necessarily been a good fit once they did the interview, which I'm sure you guys go through. They're the best candidate when they talk to us, and then when they go to the interviews, it's like, that's not the same person. Wait.
All right.
Have that. We tend to have that. So I have posted.
We pulled a lot of ours because they were location specific. Because Carvana has like hub locations, so we pulled those. Some of the more corporate ones we pulled, and then we opened the generic greenfield like tech front end developer, back end developer. So we left those posted. And now we're going through those resumes, but yeah.
And then you also like to keep them posted because sometimes once you've made the offer, sometimes people drop out after you've made the offer. So I don't take mine down until offer's been accepted and they're actually starting, because again, we'll have them, and then sometimes they don't make it through the drug screen and background process. So if I pull my rec down, then I don't have any candidates left, or to offers. So just to make sure that I'm always ready, I make sure to keep mine posted until that position has been completely filled.
Yeah, I get where everybody's coming from. I'm kind of on the other side of this because I'll give you like a real world example. Like when you get a rec with 100 applicants or 200 applicants, and your unreviewed rate of that rec is 70%. Like it's always the recruiter's call whether they post it or not. Kind of, Sean, to your point, it's about the hiring manager service. They want to see it, so do it. It's like, well, if you're not looking at all these resumes, why do you want to have people keep coming in? Because it goes back to that candidate experience of, I didn't hear anything except when they closed the rec. So to me, it's like this double-edged sword. There's no perfect solution. But when you identify a rec with a lot of applicants with a high unreviewed rate, it might be time to lower it and skip through them and then possibly post it later. Any objections or any thoughts around that type of thinking, that how I'm looking at it?
It depends. If it's a high volume rec, that one that I'm constantly having to fill, then I'm okay with it having a few extra people, because you're going to hear from me because of the fact that this is a high volume rec that I'm constantly having to fill. But if this is a position that's, that's not going to be filled probably again for another year or two, then I will pull it down if there's a lot of candidates. But in most cases, I don't have a lot of candidates like that. I will have a lot of candidates that aren't even a good fit, because unfortunately, sometimes people apply for positions that they may not necessarily be qualified for.
Same. Like if there's like our customer advocate recs in Phoenix, like in Tempe at our headquarters, that we need those thousands, like we'll just leave it open, because one way or another, we're going to have to fill those all the time. So sure.
But do you try and then review all the applicants that come through?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you don't, it's usually a time issue. I recommend, if it gets so high, pull that rec almost automatically, usually in technology. But if you're reviewing them all, yeah, keep it posted. I get that. But I've tracked unreviewed rates for quite some time at a number of different places. And to me, it's unbelievable the high rate that they're at. It just blows my mind sometimes. And I've seen solutions that fix it, but it's usually an added resource, whether it be a scheduling coordinator who wants to. This is probably the best solution that I've seen, because it is a time issue for the most part, is if you have a scheduling coordinator who wants to grow into becoming a recruiter, reviewing resumes in a quickly efficient manner is a very good skill set to have to be a successful recruiter. So here's practice where they don't own the rec, the recruiter does, but they're assisting that recruiter in certain recs to go in and review resumes. Chop, 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 chop. You get through it and you'll see below 5% unreviewed rate. So if you have the resources, let somebody learn, have them go and start being able to do it, because there are recruiters that can do it quickly. There are recruiters that take forever to review resumes, and that's kind of how everything builds up. It's just sort of a hands-on, pull up your sleeves type solution sometimes when you get into those situations. All right, I'll stop pondering on that one. I won't even get into the concept of evergreen recs.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. I've got to jump off, though. I'll let you guys keep running.
Thank you. And on that, thanks. Kiara, should we jump to you?
Sure, mine's pretty easy. Mine's just, and I'm sure it's almost like obvious. Basically, the recruiters on my team understand that their rec is their responsibility. If there's too many candidates sitting in their rec, their ass is mine. I'm pissed. Like, if I'm like checking the recs and I'm like, dude, there's like 200 resumes sitting in your rec since last week. What? Like, mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So that's how that goes down. I'm like a pretty cool boss until that moment. I'm like, dude, this is recruiting 101. What? Like, and then I'm mad. Like, there's certain things that like, it's funny. I don't really come down on my recruiters because, you're all adults. You know how to do your job. I stay off your back. When it's like the recruiting 101 things that like, you should know how to do certain things. Candidate experience, your job is to get back to literally that's your only job. So do that job and we're cool if you don't do that job. So I'm like being dramatic because I'm dramatic, but like one of the things is when you walk in, I always say that my recruiters, they have two jobs in the morning: walk around, hang out, well, pre-COVID, walk around, hang out, make friends with your hiring managers because that's your client. That's what you do. That's your client. You make friends. You get to know. Literally, you're building relationships. And then the second thing you do is empty out your recs. Make friends, empty out your recs. Those are your 2 top jobs every day of your life. That's it. That's it. It's like recruiting isn't rocket science.
The cleaning of and you're exactly right. The cleaning of the rec is my biggest pet peeve.
Me too.
Just clean your rec, do it real time. I've done it since I was an infant recruiter. You clean the rec. You clean it. You get the candidates out of the workflows in the bins that are not supposed to be in the bins, move them through the process. It's not hard to do, but I still see recruiters that struggle with it.
Oh my God. And if you just do it every day for 30 minutes a day, it's just like when you tell your kids to clean your room. If you would just keep up with it, it doesn't get ahead. It doesn't overwhelm you. If you get in, spend 30 minutes cleaning out your recs, then you're actually spending the bulk of your actual recruiting time only dealing with the candidates you want to deal with. Clean out like the ones you're not interested in, 30 minutes, wrap it up, just like suck it up and do it. But
they have to do it throughout the day too. Like I do, I keep on those recruiters and I'm checking the recs.
Me too.
I'm not seeing the movements real time throughout the day, which I've always had a habit of moving the candidates through. I think you have to move the candidates through the process.
You do. And it's a better experience for you. It's better experience for the candidate, obviously. And then also, let's be honest, it's for your hiring managers. Like there's nothing more gratifying than when your hiring managers are like, where's my candidates? You can honestly say you have a pulse on what the candidates are looking like, what the good ones are looking like, what the crap ones are looking like. You have a constant refreshed knowledge of what the actual candidate pool looks like. You always have a ready answer for what is going on, even if it's bad news. Good. No news is what sucks. You know, nobody wants to hear no news. Even bad news is better than no news. So and nobody wants to hear bullshit. They just want to hear real news. So if you're constantly checking the recs, the candidates, and cleaning out your recs, you're already a step ahead, and it's not hard.
I have to say, managing many teams of recruiters, I do find it interesting that they don't clean. There's a cleansing of the rec, and it has to be done.
Yep, so. Clean them out.
On behalf of all recruiters, say for me, as far as me being a recruiter, I know it's been plenty of times that I posted a rec and I've left it, and I'll come back the next day and I have 100, resumes, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yep.
I have to check, and especially if I have a lot of recs.
Yep.
Fortunately, I support 9 facilities, so with that being said, it's a lot of recs. So sometimes the recs will build. Sometimes resumes will build, but it's definitely important to go through those resumes and, like you said, be able to provide that feedback, whether it's good or bad. Just going ahead and provide it. And going back to what Sean said, if I have a certain amount of candidates, I do go on ahead and pull that rec. If it's just many of them, and I know I'm not able to keep up, then okay, look, let me slow down this rec, put it on hold, and go on ahead and get through the resumes so that I'm not just sitting there with a bunch of resumes that I'm not going to go through.
Well, the other thing it does is when you're cleaning those recs out, if you're noticing that all the candidates aren't great, like it's overwhelming in your gut, you're reading these, you're like, wait, these don't make sense. Now you got to revise your rec.
There you go. I just did that on one of my requisitions that I had. It was just like, this is not giving me the candidates I need.
So like, these are not getting me the candidates I wanted. So those 800 candidates can't be wrong. I'm the denominator. Who's the problem? I'm the problem. I'm the problem. So then you just sit down and fix it. And that's the other thing. Saying to your team, hey, I messed up. We made the problem. We're going to fix it. And I've done it. I'm like, crap. I'm 200 candidates behind on my recs. Everybody, what's your calendar look like for Friday at 1 p.m. from 1 to 2? We're all going to go sit in a war room, and we're going to sit there. We're going to clean out our recs. We're going to play some awesome music. We're going to bring in some drink. Like, we're going to sit down with some beers, and we're going to clean out our recs.
Right. Like a good Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're a few minutes over, so I wanted to thank everybody. I'll quickly ask for any final comments if you want, but I thought that was a great discussion. It is just this issue that's everywhere. It has to be managed ongoing because, to your point, you can get caught in, Courtney, you can get caught behind in a day, and then, the only way to get out of it is to fill the rec, but then you still have all these people just sitting there. They don't go away by themselves. So final comments or anything? Courtney, I'll start with you. Any final comments or thoughts?
Oh, just communicating, making sure we communicate as much as possible, whether it's with the candidate, with the hiring manager, with everyone involved, just making sure we communicate. That is the main goal, especially when you're trying to get out of the main platform. Just
Matt?
Yeah, exactly what Courtney says. I mean, communication, candidate experience, you have to have that in the back of your mind at all times. I mean, if you want to brand the company the right way, if you want to stand out, put the best foot forward with candidate experience and make sure that you are getting back to candidates and giving them the real feedback. That's going to be key.
I would be, yep, same. No need
Gotcha.
to be redundant, same. Just communication. It's just such a crappy time in like basically the world right now where people are just tired of not hearing anything or just hearing crap. It's just be honest and be communicative.
Got it. Well, thank you everybody for the session. I thought it was another really good one again. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Ron. Take care.
thank you.
Thank you.